Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Hi, Rola.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. How is everyone? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you clearly.
Okay, great.
So, Rola, but just take it to let you know, we've been receiving a lot of messages that people lost their connection and electricity because it's 6. So في عالم تجي عندها الكهرباء وفي عالم بتروح من عندها الكهرباء. And we are used to that, honestly. What we are doing is that we are recording the session. The session will be posted on the YLP Lebanon platform so that the participants can come in and watch it again. لحتى ما يكونوا عم يخسروا هيدا. Well, actually, many of them, they are referring back to the recordings because they want really to know more about the YLP Lebanon talks. So, Rola, again and again, thank you so much for being here today. We have almost 30 participants among us. Let me tell you something, Rola. وأنا شخصياً رولا لكل الموجودين هون YLPers, Rola was one of the supporters for my initiative كفي بكفك. من بعد ما صار انفجار بيروت ونزلنا على الأرض and we were in the front lines responding to the crisis that happened. Rola stepped in and said that we want to be supporting you into young leaders اللي عم تمشوا بهالحملات mentally, and she changed the way we saw things, and she helped us take a step forward ويكون عندنا comfort zone نحن بهيدا الانيشيتيف تاعتنا. ولليوم يعني رولا بتعرف هي معي، وحبيت انه كون شارك كل العالم وكل اليوث اللي موجودين معنا باليوث ليدرشيب بروجرام الاستفاده اللي انا شخصيا عم بستفيدها بشاركها لكلكم انتم كمان تكونوا عم تستفيدوا منه. قبل ما بلش اعرف عنك رولا honestly نحن we've been receiving a lot of مثل requests انه we want well-being, we want to know more about well-being, we want to know how to deal with the current crisis, how to deal with everything happening around us. عنا هذا البروجرام اللي هو 7 أو 8 أشهر trainings وبدنا نطلع innovative ideas to be مثلا implemented in Lebanon and the region and so on, but we are not able to do that because of the crisis, because of everything happening around us. People are down. So that's why we stepped in and we said that we want to do something new. We want to create the YLP Lebanon talks. We are getting motivational speakers. We are getting someone to help the youth in مثلا هيك dealing with the current crisis and never lose hope. So again and again, Rola, thank you so much for being here. Into a psychologist with more than 22 years of experience in mindfulness and in coaching and the psychological support. Anna, I fully trust and you will benefit everyone here. So I will leave the floor for you to lead on the session today. And we will be here listening in case you need any support or anything. بس لكل الموجودين معنا make sure يكون معكم ورقة وقلم مثل ما كنا قايلين بالإيميل so that we do an interactive session and we benefit from it. So over to you, Rola, if you'd like to introduce yourself again and begin with everything. Over.
Thank you so much, Nadine.
سوري يعني ما بعرف اليوم شو صاير معي وقعة وكسرة ايدي يعني. So I'm sorry إذا في شيء هيك بين إني in pain أو أي شيء. I'm sorry.
سلامتك. We are all in crisis, so today is another crisis for you. سلامة قلبك.
So يلا.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Nadine, for the beautiful and inspiring introduction. Indeed, it was a time for us in Lebanon to return to the inner world, to look into social change at the base. And this was the call IB Institute started in December 2019. After the first few days of Saura or few weeks, we started to realize that people have started to crack down. The overwhelming waves of whatever was happening was too much on all of us. And we started to realize the need for people to start to become more aware of what's going on inside us as the whole environment is going in different directions. And we were not in control in any aspect of control. Before I start, I would just like to say I'm a behavior analyst. I have learned a lot of psychology, but I'm not a psychologist. I'm a behavior analyst and a mindfulness practitioner, and I'm very proud to be working with all the mental health coaches and practitioners in Lebanon and abroad today, because we are a family of humans, and if we really want to learn about ourselves, now's the time to understand what are we made up for and what is really the material that composes all of us. So thank you again, Nadine. Thank you for everyone. I'm going to share my slides and start with some house rules. Okay, so we're here. Okay, so we are here waking up in a crisis time and trying to discover the interesting material. And how do we put the pieces together? So some housekeeping rules are that today is going to be interactive. So I encourage you, please to talk and comment and share your feedback. Send your comment in the chat and send your questions in the Q&A session, and we would love to answer them at the end. Also, if there's a subject that has grabbed your attention, bearing in mind that this is just a 1 hour talk trying to open the mind to some interesting topics that might be a place for exploration, a space for creation for you in the next few weeks. So we are not going to go deep in any of the topics. We're just gonna go like in a spectrum way, bringing the attention to some things. We will attempt to solve some exercises, but also you can go back to the exercises later. It's great that we have recording. So whenever you feel free, you can go back to the recording and practice again, and also send me or Nadine your questions. You are welcome to do that. Please make use of the emoticons on the Zoom so that you can send feedback. If you agree, you disagree, you're curious, you're thinking, whatever you're having in mind, please let us know. And it is about your true presence today. It is not about the slides. It is not about the material. It is about our true presence. And this is where we started in social change at the base. How can we now be present in the crisis and stop avoiding the inner work and the inner learning? So we all know that whatever the trauma we are experiencing today, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's impact on our life, whether it's the economic or political crisis in the world around us that we are facing, whether it's the climate change that is also having a drastic impact on life on Earth, whatever it is, whether it's a broken heart, a broken dream, we all know that none of us can reverse these events with a magic stick. Do you agree? Please use the emoticons to show us what you think of this statement. We do, we all do. Sorry, I think the slides are working on their own. Thank you for sharing your feedback. Okay. Just 1 second because I missed the slides. Okay. So we also know that change is not easy, and it might not be, or it might be the only constant we have in life today. But what we know today is a lot more, a lot beyond what we used to know. According to Dr. Gaber, we talk about individual, ancestral, and collective trauma. Individual trauma is what we are going through today in our part of the world, in Lebanon specifically, and in the whole world, because COVID has touched the lives of everyone, and the impacts of COVID has touched the lives of everyone. When we talk about ancestral trauma, we talk about what we have carried in our system, in our neurology, in our emotional repertoires, from our parents, from our grandparents and great-grandparents in terms of trauma. And isn't that interesting to discover that we do carry trauma from generation to generation without even knowing about it and without even knowing how to process it? And then comes the collective trauma, which also becomes a state of a group, a state of a community, that we're all suffering, we're all struggling, and there might be a reason for us now to start to collectively think and collectively feel this trauma. So according to Dr. Gaber, he says that trauma robs of your agency. It robs of your self-regulation. It makes you a victim of your life. Does that make sense? Have we been witnessing our robbing away of our self-regulation, our sense of responsibility, our sense of control? We have been feeling sick too, and our illnesses are manifestations of our lives and our trauma in a social context. And this again robs us from our agencies. In the healing journey, we need to regain our agencies, and healing is reclaiming our lives. So I need to listen to my gut feeling, and I'm in charge of my life. Agency in social sciences is defined by the capacity of individuals to act independently and to make their own free choices. Do we have that capacity today? We can also use the chat to type in how much you feel you are ruling and mastering your agency today. We can have a 1 on 10 or percentage. How much of your agency are you in control today? Totally out of control, 30%. Thank you. No, we're not. No, we're not. Thank you. So how can we move from here? How can we go back to taking control of our agency and our independent free will decisions? 60%, 60%. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just having some delayed process in my computer with the chat. So just give me a second. I'm sure you can see my chat, right? Nadine, can you see my chat window covering the screen? Okay, so I'm going to continue. So if you showed up to this session today, okay, it's clear, thank you. So if you showed up to this session today, you must have heard something, an inner calling in you. There must be something in us that we are missing. There must be something we can do, because this is not the first time we go in crisis. And the world has really changed, and we thought the world has advanced, and we thought we have all the tools, and technology is there, and medicine is improving. And we are aware of the climate change, and we are starting to become eco. And so what happened? Why did we lose control? Why did this crisis make us understand that institutions are not yet ready, while we thought institutions are becoming perfect and more perfect every day? So what is it that we can do? What we can do today is to listen to our inner voice and see what it is that we missed from our learning, and how can we become the masters of our own lives. In order to build resilience in crisis, we need to know ourselves. We need to know our brains and our bodies. We need to know our preferences, our strengths, our likes, our dislikes, our passions, our goals. Not only to like them, but to synchronize them. And this is the secret word. We might know a lot about each other today and about ourselves, but we stop at a point where, so what do I do if I have those character traits? What do I do if I have this job and I don't have enough money? I'm not able to save. What do I do if I have the best university degree? One day I thought it was the best, and today it's not getting me a job. So how can I synchronize all these preferences, all these forms of colors of myself? How can I know what my gut is telling me? Because there's so much to do with the gut. How do we know to regain our inner world? How do we regain and reclaim our agency when we know we have lost it? So it is clearly, sorry, you're gonna give me a second because I have a problem with this. Okay, now it's gone. Thank you. It is clearly important to read and add knowledge. The more important is the mind we show up with every day and the skills we build for life. And we have been hearing coaches and teachers and mentors and wise people telling us, you make your story in life, not behind the table, not in university, not in school. You make it in life. And how do you raise that mind? To make it a mind for life and not a mind just temporary now in the crisis. So we explore dimensions of being that were never taught to us in school. We were always being judged for math and English and grades, and whether we behave or not behave, whether we sit down for 50 minutes or not. But no one ever told us that there's a mind and a heart and a spirit and a body. And that, in synchronization and harmony, can make us masters of our own lives. And let's see how that happens. Again, no one told us that there was a left and a right brain, and I would be analytical and logical if I'm good in math, but maybe I need to work on my creativity. Maybe I need to allow space for my intuition. Maybe I need to become more creative. I need to create with my hands and try what I can do. I need to feel, and I need to imagine, and I need to listen to my gut. And the feelings are in the gut. The feelings are not in the logic. So if I learn how to play the piano, yes, I'm a logical and analytical thinker, but how can I feel the music? How can I feel the atmosphere in the room? How can I know the container I'm sitting in right now? How does it feel and where does it take me? So a lot was missing from our education. And this is what we need to learn today before we move forward. So in order to check the container we are in today and now in this moment, I would like you please to write down in the chat if you feel stressed, sad, happy, or confused. No judgment, no correction. There's nothing to fix here. Just say that word that makes it the most resonant with the direct moment of now. Happy, confused, stressed, sad, stressed, confused, stressed, confused, happy. Thank you. We do live in emotional containers, and these emotional containers transfer from one to the other. And this is why in a state of collective trauma, we might be unconsciously transferring the sadness, the confusion, the stress, and sometimes the negativity, many times the negativity and the negative thinking attitude, and we will come to that. So what do people feel when a disaster threatens? We do have psychological barriers to that. We face denial. For so long, we face denial that, oh, maybe there's COVID, maybe there's no COVID. Let's see what will happen. Maybe I should wear a mask, maybe I shouldn't wear a mask. And there was fear, there was anxiety, there was confusion, and there was dread. And many times we felt hopeless and helpless. So how can we take care of these feelings, and what can be done about it? The Chinese word for crisis is made up of two words, the danger and the opportunity. How do we build resilience in crisis? And how do we unpack happiness? There's this author, his name is Jonathan Haidt, who has done a lot of research on stress. And how did our ancestors build resilience? And how did they discover happiness? And what makes all these generations inherit and talk about happiness? And what does it mean to be happy in different generations at different times? He defined resilience as ways for people to cope with adversity, fend off damage, and bounce back to normal functioning. Do we have any of these three words that make sense to us today? Adversity, fend off damage, bounce back. Did we witness any of those? Did we bounce back in this crisis? Did we deal with our adversities, our complications, our challenges? Did we witness any of that? Yes, yes, all of them. Thank you. Yes. I'm sorry, my mouse cannot work on the tool, so I have to do this. Thank you. So what did Jonathan Haidt discover? He discovered that we cannot stop the waves, but we can learn how to surf them, and we have to work on ourselves. In an IB context, we talk about 4 different themes of us being and becoming for the future. So we are states of being, feeling, thinking, and doing. In the state of being, we are degrees of happiness and resilience. So Jonathan Haidt found that we are 3 components: a set point, a condition, and voluntary activities. And if we can really explore that, if we can think through that, then, sorry, just to make sure that, okay. Sorry, can you all see the screen of happiness, set point, conditions, and voluntary activities?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So what is a set point and what are the conditions? And what are the voluntary activities we can consider? They are the raw materials of happiness. And isn't this interesting to start to find out that there are raw materials of happiness and we can create it and craft it? So we are human and we are shaped by both nature and nurture. What we come to the world with, that are our genes, and the nurture, the upbringing, the experiences, the interactions, the relationships. And we have those raw materials to construct our happiness. So the set point is more of a brain's default. You come to the world with it. It's your genetics. It's more similar to if you come to the world with a positive mindset because you come from a family of a positive mindset or optimism. It is if you come to the world with a chronic disease, if you come to the world with a musical intelligence, if you come to the world with beautiful handwriting inherited from your family. So all these brain defaults, we walk to the world carried in our DNA and we have no control of them. Let's look at the conditions. These are facts about your life, internal and external, things that you cannot change also. Your race, your gender, your ability and disability. But there are things you can change, such as wealth, where you live, relationship status. And then comes the voluntary activities that talks about what do we put our attention on? Where do we invest our efforts in order for us to change the formula and get closer to the formula of happiness? We're gonna go through an example of how I apply the autobiographical application on myself, and then later you're gonna apply it on yourself. But before we go there, do we have any question? A quick one. Okay. So this is my autobiographical application. I have a set point, which is I inherited happiness genes from my family. And then my conditions are that I am Caucasian, I'm a female, I'm privileged. I was raised with a dismissive attached mother, but I was an attached secure baby with my father. And I'm a mother of 2 boys. And these are the conditions of my life. The voluntary activities I do are mindfulness practices. I'm a mindfulness practitioner and I spend my days living them mindfully. I read, I travel, I learn. I spend money only on education, memories, and self-development. So I'm not really a consumer of other things. I'm open to life through kindness, wisdom, and values. I surround myself with like minds when I want to learn, and I surround myself with diverse people when I'm curious about humans. And my favorite quote is, through others, we become ourselves. And this quote means a lot to me because I have learned that our relationships shape us. The people we hang out with, we are the product of the 5 people we hang out with, someone said. So I've learned that we are the shape of our relationships, our childhood, our parents, our teachers, our siblings, and then all the people who pass our ways in life, they shape us as humans. And again, there is not only pleasant materials for happiness, there is adaptation that we have to learn a lot about. How do we improve our skills? How do we improve our capacities in order to adapt further and further? Where are the spaces of positivity in our lives? And how can we bring out our skills in order to change and become flexible and adapt in that new context? Before we go to your autobiographical, we're gonna check a bit about feeling, because also feeling shape our minds and hearts. So love and relationships are foundationals to happiness and resilience. Let's talk a bit about attachment. Are we familiar with attachment? Can each one please send one word in the chat to say what is attachment? Just one word that comes to mind when you hear of the word attachment. Love, dependence, thinking, unsustainable, very close. Habit, link, passion. Thank you. There's so much to talk about attachment here, yes. Similarities, yes. Familiarities, yes. Addictions, yes. Heavy energy, wow. Thank you. So attachment is a biological force of attraction. And actually we do have attachment in a lot of things happening on the planet. So attachment is just a force of attraction. It can be attracting atoms, it can be attracting humans, it can be attracting different forces of nature. But on a human context, attachment is a force that defines for us our beginning of our world. It starts with the mother and the child. And it persists into adulthood. And this is very interesting for us to know, because for many of us, we never thought that the relationship with our mothers in the beginning of life would affect the type of partners we meet later and the partners we build relationships with. It would affect how we develop friendships and how we cut off friendships. So there's a lot to do with the mother and child beginning relationship. And we say that attachment figures can build joy and euphoria, and in the absence of loved ones, it can build despair and restlessness. But there is so much beyond attachment. There's so many variables of attachment. To make them simple and efficient today, secure attachments are defined by home bases to return to. So when we think about attachment between ourselves and other people, is this person a home base I can return to? Is this person a comfort space for me to retreat from life, struggles, and obstacles? Is this person an inspiration? So I would like you please to close your eyes and just think of one person that you are attached to. And just write 1, 2, or 3 of these words, whatever works. And again, we're just gonna be quick in responding, and you can have more time to think about these things later. So what does this person resemble in your life if you think you are attached to them? A home base to return to, a comfort space to retreat to, or an inspiration, or maybe more. Do we have answers? Can it be done by those? Yes, yes, of course. None of those 3? Yes, yes. It might be an insecure attachment then. If we don't have any of those 3, then maybe the relationship has some insecurity. But you can also use the word that describes the relationship. Peace, okay, intellectual. So when we talk about peace, maybe then it's a home base to return to, or maybe a comfort space to retreat to. And when we talk about home base to return to, it's like a non-judgmental space. It's a place where I'm myself. I'm not being judged. I'm not being criticized. I don't feel I need to change anything about myself in front of this person. They accept me as they are. Peace, happiness, comfort. Okay, comfort space to return to. Thank you. We're talking about attachment because this is how, again, we build resilience. We are building resilience by being, feeling, thinking, and doing. And by starting to develop a sense of happiness in our lives by exploring our relationships, exploring our bonds, exploring the decisions we make in terms of these relationships. So moving on. Are you in a relationship today? Can we have a quick one of a yes and a no? Yes, no, 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 no. Okay. So when we're doing the next level of thinking, you can refer to a friendship or a relationship with your parents, whatever that might mean. But I'm going to go a bit into adult relationships because also our adult relationships are part of what we live every day, and they might have been affected by the crisis. So the types of adult love we have, according to Jonathan Haidt again, are 2 forms. Passionate love, which can be described by wildly emotional love, tender and sexual, and love you fall into and out of. And that's something we all enjoy when we go into that stage of love. And then we have the companionate love, which is an affection grown over years, lives deeply intertwined with us, and an adult attachment of care, trust, and commitment. And here comes some danger points in those graphs when we look at passionate love and companionate love. You can see on the graph that the companionate love is the one with dots, and the passionate love is the one with dots, and the companionate love is the one with a straight line, if we might say. So there are danger points in these different graphs, whereby if I'm on a passionate curve, I'm still in the passionate stage, and which is about the first 6 months of a relationship, I might face point A or point B. And as the graph starts to stabilize and I start to establish more of a companionate relationship, more of trust and commitment in my relationship, then I start to stabilize on C. A is dangerous because some people get married, but they should wait. They should not get married. And this is a hasty decision at this stage of a relationship. They might still get married later. Nobody said otherwise, but we need to wait until the relationship starts to achieve a companionate level so that we are sure that this is a trustful and committed partner we want for life. B is when people break up, but they should wait. And this is also very important because sometimes when we go through passionate love and we're so excited and so wildly aroused and we're always waiting for the moment to see that partner, that at some point when the curve starts to come down and that passionate love starts to calm down into more peace, more tranquility, more harmony, then some people might be so scared that he doesn't love me anymore, he doesn't want me in his life anymore, or she hates me, she doesn't want to talk to me, she's not picking my calls. These kinds of unfolding emotions that can lead us to dangerous decisions where we might break up a very rich and fruitful relationship that might have been the relationship of our lives. So we need to be aware of point A, point B, and try to hold until we arrive at point C and see what that relationship can offer us. So for those who are in a relationship, where do you think you are today, A, B, or C? See?
رولا فينا نرجع نحط شو هن ال A وشو هن ال B وشو هن ال C؟
Yes, sure. So A is when people get married, but they should wait, which is a point of high passionate love. And it's very wild, it's very sexual, it's overwhelming, all kinds of emotions. And B is the time where things start to look like falling, but they are coming down to calm down and start to stabilize into peace and tranquility and commitment and trust. C, C, A. Thank you. So attachments have their own curves, and this is what this screen is all about. It's understanding that even emotions, they have their own curves, and experiences, emotional relationships will have times of A, times of B, and times of C. And this is why we need to learn more and more of this and be able to handle it and regulate it with more awareness. And then we come to a very interesting topic, which is belonging. How many of us were bullied in their childhood and they felt that they did not belong? Most of us, all of us, will remember that time where we never belonged and they kicked us out of the group and we were bullied and everything. And we thought, and our parents might have thought, that we have to belong everywhere. But the research says no. Belonging is crucial for overall happiness, but we don't have to belong everywhere. We have to belong at least in one place. And if this is a space of real belonging, it might not even be school, it might not be university, it can be your community club, it can be your church, it can be your gym. If we have that space that we feel we belong and we are secure and safe and we are growing and exchanging and learning, then this is the safe, secure attachment we can build in that space of belonging. And from there, we can start to transfer to the outside world. But we need to belong somewhere in order for us to establish that sense of belonging, that security, that secure attachment, because we are all made of these attachments and we need them in our lives. No man, woman, or child is an island. So in order to feel resilience, we need to nurture our relationships. We need to find our belongings. We need to practice tools that can empower us, like mindfulness for attention and intention. We need to practice mindfulness for kindness and compassion. We need to show empathy. I remember Yusr in her previous talk, she spoke a lot about empathy. She spoke a lot about gratitude and how we thank people in each and every encounter. And we don't wait and we don't forget. So practicing these mind tools can really bring us into the feeling mode and can give us a higher state of happiness, because gratitude, empathy, and all the mentioned have been research proven that they can rise our state of being and make us happier and more fulfilled in our lives. So now it's your turn. We have 5 minutes for you to create your autobiographical data. So the formula is your happiness is the set point plus the conditions plus your voluntary activities. So on a sheet of paper, please write down your set points. What were your set points when you came to the world? What are the conditions that you were raised with? And what are the voluntary activities you do today in order for you to start to create your own path, to create your own sense of belonging, your own sense of control? And we have 5 minutes for the whole of the activity. So I'm going to set the timer. And you can start, please.
Rola, can you give us the example that you
Yes,
shared
sure.
previously?
Yes, and thank you for saying that, because many of us prefer to look at examples when we are applying learning. Don't get affected by my example, but just to have an idea. So what did I inherit? What were the conditions? And what are my voluntary activities? And if anyone has a question, I'm ready to answer on the chat on this. Sorry. Let's go here. The ones asking if you inherit happiness or not, are you an optimistic person? Do you smile often? How do people describe you socially? Do they say you have positive energy, you're a positive thinker, they get energy from you? This is how we know if we have inherited happiness genes. Are we gloomy? Are we negative thinkers? Do we always look at the empty side of the cup? That would take us into inherited more of sadness genes or depressed genes. Yes, sure, we can go to the previous slide. The question is, Aya, to create your own happiness formula based on Jonathan Haidt, that happiness is the total of, remember this formula, set point plus conditions plus voluntary activities. So this is an example of writing down your autobiographical application. Sure, anytime. On considering attachments with our parents, research also says that there might be figures in our childhood that we might have developed attachments with that might have been compromising or also dismissing. For example, if someone spent a lot of their childhood at their grandpa or grandma, there was someone who lived with them, an elderly person, we also develop attachments with these people and they also shape our minds. Yes, we can go back to the slide. So when we come to conditions, we start to think about, so what can I change? Where is my sense of control? Where do I need to learn more? How can I manage my money? How can I make the choice to change the neighborhood I was raised with and I never liked this neighborhood. How can I start to establish the relationships I want? So it's all how we approach these subjects and what we can learn about that. I would like just one volunteer as we approach the minute number 4 to volunteer and read for us or type in the chat what you have written, what you would like to share, of course. If there's something on the paper that you would like to keep private, then that stays for you. And there's no right or wrong thing here, you know, it's a profile of all our lives scattered in just a small sheet of paper. So definitely that's a distorted image, but something interested to start thinking about it. Or if you prefer to type down some of what you wrote in terms of set point, just write what it is. Is it S, is it C, or is it V? And just go ahead and write down what you like to share.
Rola, can they unmute themselves to share?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Do they have that option?
Yes, I'm allowing
please.
everyone to unmute.
Please. So we need just one volunteer because of time to read S plus C plus V on their own autobiography, or start typing down in your chat because actually the 5 minutes are over. Type any of the components you were able to explore. Mahmoud, I think, or Muhammad, I'm not, please go ahead.
I think that point is happiness a choice or a mindset? Or is it something that you're born with? I think I would say my conditions is Caucasian male. I'm a family person, and also voluntary activities that I would like is I give back to the people. I travel a lot. I also try to volunteer. I think more about IQ mindfulness and taking care of myself and taking care of others. The quote that I would like, I always remember, be the change that you want to see in the world. If you don't see anyone that you can inspire, be the inspiration.
Thank you for sharing, Muhammad. Just to go back to the set point, it's not what we think. It's, have you come to the world with a positive mindset or a negative mindset or a fixed
of course,
mindset?
a positive.
Positive. Okay, so
I think,
that's
yes.
Yes, thank you. And we do inherit that from our genes, and we don't know it early on, but as we start to learn about this and we start to meet other people in our family, we start to feel that I'm inclined to this community more than that because I share with them, for example, the happiness gene. We laugh a lot when we see each other, we smile a lot, we go on the solution brain, we find solutions together, while maybe in different communities, it might be different. Thank you all for sharing. So we have voluntary activities in Rayyan, empowering people around the openness to self-development and growth, person with strong memory. Yes, with high level of self-discipline. Wow, that's a set point. That's an interesting one. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Interesting. Some are, so I have inherited happiness. I can't take any credit in being positive. I think you should, because also what we don't work on, it doesn't stay with us. You know, yes, we inherit it, but also it's something you need to nurture. You know, you can get the biggest plant in the world and it's so strong and it's durable and it's an evergreen plant, but still it can be vulnerable. So I think you should also salute that finding and raise it sensitively. Thank you all for the sharing. As we said, because of the time, we're going to be a bit faster. So we're going to move on to, we went on being, feeling, and now we're going to go into more of thinking. So how can we learn about ourselves as human beings? We need to, right? We've learned about everything else, but we didn't really learn about the mind, our mind and body. It's the center for all decision making. Our automatic conditioning. How many of you know this term? Automatic conditioning. What is it we have been doing for years, our old habits that we wish we could have changed? What gets us to our goals and what interferes with our goal achievement? How many of you have crossed roads with the word barriers? Some people are barriers for my growth. Some people are supporters for my growth. How can I overcome the barriers in order to achieve a goal? How can I get rid of this old habit? Do these words sound familiar to you? Yes, yes, they do. So in some contexts, our voluntary activities can also be a bit of our orange color. As adults, we might choose to stress sometimes. And this takes me back to someone who said attachment is stress and attachment is, they use some negative words that was very interesting for me because yes, sometimes we attach to stress. If we were raised in communities that were very stressful, if we were raised with parents who have a lot of anxiety, for example, we might start to become having the stress in our profile, and stress becomes part of our identity. So no matter what we read about it, no matter what other people try to tell us about it, we might end up convincing them that stress is very useful. And stress is part of my identity, and I am attached to stress. Of course, people do not use these words to say it, but this is the interpretation, because they might spend 1 hour describing to you how they cannot let go of stress, while if you ask them to go for a walk for 10 minutes during your lunchtime, they say, we don't have time for a walk. And that's 10 minutes compared to 1 hour of describing to you how it is very difficult to let go of stress in their lives. So here we're not being judgmental, we're trying to be pragmatic about how do we define our identities and what is stress in my life. So sometimes I overthink and I overworry as a voluntary activity, but how can I know? This is the question. We judge ourselves and we judge others, but how can we know? We make hasty decisions and face regret and guilt. We procrastinate a lot, but how can we know? Again, some adults will choose other things. We will go on joining community circles. We book for university program. We study self-development. We go on well-being. We go on training. We set our attention to go somewhere. So we make those choices. We make them free-hearted. We have free webinars that we can join. Not everything needs money today, but we make those choices where we want to be. For people who face trauma after the Beirut blast, for people who went down to walk and clean, they use their hands to process the trauma. They use their minds and their smiles and their sense of belonging to be there together, to collectively endure the trauma, to collectively cry, to collectively suffer. Because these are ways we create, we voluntarily choose in order for us to process our traumas. But what about after the trauma? What is our post-trauma situation, and how much have we been able to achieve after that? And this is the question today. So how can we achieve thinking and resilience? And we hear that word a lot. Changing our minds, if not our conditions. We know today we cannot change our conditions. Our parents are our parents. The neighborhood I was raised in, my school, my abusive teacher, my principal who never allowed me to celebrate my birthday. All these were my conditions. But how can I now change my mind, which was shaped by these conditions? So we start to explore thinking and resilience, and we start to explore the mind. And research says that the mind is very flexible and very expandable and very changeable, but there are ways to do it. We need to understand our emotions because they shape our minds. We have to start to develop new thoughts and new perspectives. We need to start thinking different. We know that Einstein says you can't solve the same problem in the same way you made the problem. You have to find other ways to solve the problem. Thinking construction and growing the positive in us. Mindfulness as a science comes in to teach us how to voluntarily and metacognitively process and train our minds to start to notice where our mind goes. I want to know if I always think about stress. I want to know if my body is always stressed. I want to know if I'm overjudging people, because I know that overjudgment is negative in the mind. And if I'm negative in my mind, then my creativity is blocked. Then my memory is blocked. If my stress rises, then my memory is inhibited and I can't memorize what I need to memorize. So we know a lot, but how can we find out? We need to start looking into the tools that will help us now become self-observators for self-regulators. So mindfulness comes in as one of the tools that start to teach us, how can we start becoming self-observant? How can I start becoming aware of what's happening in the heart, what's happening in the spirit, what's happening in the body, in order for me to self-regulate? And Nadine started with this. She said, how can we start to achieve well-being? How can we start to regulate? Where is our sense of control? How can we get hold of it? And this is where it is. We need to learn more about it so that we become friends with it. And we need to make it familiar, because now, based on our societal upbringing, we might not have been brought up to talk about mindfulness, talk about where our attention is. You know, there's this saying in mindfulness in schools, there's this kid who once said, nobody ever taught us how to pay attention. But everyone throughout the schooling of our lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, we always remember teachers telling us, pay attention, pay attention. Our parents, pay attention, look here, focus. But there was never one strategy that taught the students how to pay attention, where to place the attention, where is the intention. So tools are coming up and we are grateful for that, and we need to explore that deeper. We're gonna go on a pleasant and unpleasant events activity, which will take us around 3 to 4 minutes. And this is just a small sample on how can we start to think differently about the same things that happen every day in our lives, just to have a sense of it. So I would like you please to place your feet fully on the ground and your hands on your laps. So feet on the ground, spine in a line, hands on the laps, and just starting to relax and tilting your eye gaze down and starting to bring attention to the breath, if that's possible. Just to breathe in and out and closing your eyes whenever you're ready. And I'm gonna read for you some events that happen in everyday life. Everyone has gone through these events. In order for you to listen to the event, every time I say it, imagine how you would feel. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you fear it? Do you look forward to it? Do you wish for it to happen again? Or do you hope that it's gone forever? Get involved in that. So try to magnify the feelings that arise during the event memory that I will bring, and try to imagine as much details as you can. You fail in class. Someone wakes you up early on the weekend. Someone criticizes you. Someone gives you a gift when you were not expecting it. Being tickled. You get caught in a lie. Again, imagining the event and the details around it in as much as you can. You are praised for good work in your favorite class. You are wearing soft clothes. Someone gives you money for a special occasion. Seeing a really bad movie. So I'm going to repeat right now the events, which are thoughts passing in your mind, and you are trying to imagine them and getting into the details. But this time the instruction is different. You have only 2 choices to make when you hear about the thought or the event. Just try to categorize it between pleasant and unpleasant. So on mentioning an event or a thought, just categorize it if it's pleasant or unpleasant. Try not to imagine and try not to go into details. You fail a class. Someone wakes you up early on the weekend. Someone criticizes you. Someone gives you a gift when you were not expecting it. Being tickled. You get caught in a lie. You are wearing soft clothes. Seeing a really bad movie. So slowly coming back into the room and typing in the chat, what was the difference between the first exercise and the second exercise? And if anyone wants to speak, please feel free to open your mic and speak too. One or two words, what was the difference? The first one made more sense to me. It's more familiar, right? We imagine, we process, we add details. So that's the familiarity. That's what we do every day, mix of emotions. The second was neutral, yes. Rayan, in the first one, in the second, the left side of our brain. Okay. So you were analyzing which side of the brain it is. Yes. Yes, the left one. Yes. Helps us to explore our emotions better. Yes, it does. Yes. But what happens, Manar, what happens when you're sitting in a meeting, in a business meeting, or you're sitting in class, or you're trying to pray, and these thoughts come to mind, and every thought that comes to mind, you start to imagine how things happened and add more details, and maybe experience the sadness and the depression and the anxiety and all the difficulty when these things are unpleasant. And when they are pleasant, also you shift the attention from what's available here in the present moment into maybe the time you were at the beach or the time we were having soft clothes. So what happens when these thoughts visit us at the wrong time? Do we want to process them and imagine them and experience them to the fullest, or do we want to be able to manage them, to regulate them so that we focus in the moment? Yes, of course, we believe them. Yes, of course, because they happen to us every day and we can believe things. And how many of us re-enumerate? And by saying re-enumerate means نشتر أفكارنا بالعربي, or we keep on repeating the events that were having pain and suffering and negativity. We keep on recalling them and imagining them and adding the details to them. How often do we do that? Yes, we can just regulate them now and explore them later. Beautiful. And this is one dimension of regulation, that we are not going to suppress them and try to delete them forever, but we are trying to categorize them by saying, okay, this is an unpleasant event, I'll come back to you later. And I return my attention to this moment where I need to do something fruitful, and my intention is here, and not to evaluate the experience of yesterday or go in the past or over worry about something. The second is focusing about emotions. Sorry, someone is talking.
Can I say something very quick? Yes.
Yes, please.
Regarding the first exercise, when we have an emotion and we dwell on it really, and it starts taking our thoughts and to different places. Sometimes a pleasant emotion might turn in the end to an unpleasant emotion while we travel with the thoughts. While when
how can that happen?
Yeah, so but when we do it like the second, what we did in the second exercise, by defining the here and the emotion here now, I think we can make it in a frame to define it in a realistic way and just be face to face with it. Like, this is the emotion, this is how we feel right now. No need to dwell on and judge and go with our thoughts to different places.
So it's a mind decision. It's a way to change the way we think and regulate these thoughts, because thoughts are cognitive. Thoughts are in the mind, but with the thoughts come the emotion. So we think and we feel the whole time. We think and we feel. And we need to be able to regulate what we think and what we feel at different times of the day and different capacities of the day. If it's not the best day of my life, then I would need to stop imagining my past over and over and over, because I already have very limited capacity today to work with. And this is a wake-up call for all of us today in the crisis, where we really, really need to be aware of our mental capacities and be able to say no when we need to say no, be able to dismiss conversations that are going to take me down the road of negativity, being able to skip events that are not positively nurturing my well-being. So this is part of how do we look at these things in life, and how do we imagine where they're going to take us. Rana, when you said a pleasant thought can turn into an unpleasant, I also thought you would say that sometimes when we imagine too much, even if it's pleasant, sometimes it takes time from us and we are procrastinating. And with that procrastination comes a sense of guilt and a sense of regret for wasting time. And in this sense, also we go on an unpleasant experience. So it is important. And this is just a small exercise. just for us to start to look at, okay, so there are ways where the same experience comes, but now I handle it differently. And this is the essence of this exercise. Thank you for the kind participation. So we're going to move on to the third activity and the last today, which is how do we think of our life wheel? How many of you have seen this wheel or something similar to it before? So in our life, our wheel is divided into 8 main areas. Okay, Rayan, thank you. Adnan, nope. Okay, Karen, I did. Beautiful. Okay, so in that, we're looking at the physical environment we live in, the business and career we are establishing and being involved in, the finances we are doing, the health, the family and friends, the romance, the personal growth, the fun and the recreation. So I'm going to ask you, please, on the paper to write down from 0 to 10, how much satisfied with the physical environment you are living in today? From 1 to 10, just say 1 over 10, 2 over 10, 3 over 10. And the way to do it is, if you like, you can also create the wheel and put, of course, this is just simulated by me, put on the wheel, but not to take so much time, where over 10 is each area of growth for you in terms of satisfaction and fulfillment. We're going to take only 1 minute because we're getting closer to the end. Someone is typing on my screen, and this is very interesting. I didn't know someone has access, but go ahead. Okay. So as we score these numbers from 1 to 10 on our romantic life, on our personal growth, on our finances, we all know, for example, that we might be making a lot of money or maybe enough money, but we don't know how to save. So my business and career might be doing well, but my finances are not well because I don't know how to manage my resources. While someone who is doing the same income like me has, for example, an insurance, has a saving plan in the bank, can invest more in self-development courses. And we wonder, how can he or she do that while we make the same money? So the tools are different, the mindsets are different. Thank you for showing all this on my chart. Now, the suggestion is for you to connect the dots for your own wheel, to connect your dots and find out how does the figure look like. And of course, what you see is again simulated. But when you connect your 2 dots, the aim is not to find everything at 9 or 10 or 8. The aim is to explore. If we look at the chart here that has the black dot connection, for example, and this is for Karen, maybe? Is it Karen? We can see that there is a gap or a pyramid shape here that shows that romance is at 4, while we have areas at 10, have areas at 8, we have areas at 9. We also see that business and career and physical environment is at 4. So what we look for, thank you, Nadine. So what we look for is how can we make our chart or our diagram synchronized and harmonious? How can we start to look for the balance? So if my romance life is 3 over 10 and my business and career is 9 over 10, maybe there's something I need to watch for. Maybe I'm not putting enough attention on my romantic life. Maybe I'm spending a lot of time. Maybe I'm becoming workaholic. Maybe if I reduce my business and career time to 8 or 7, then I can give more time to my romance life. So this is just another way of trying to look into our lives and see where are the areas I need to work on and where is the space for creation. Thank you. So everyone is still scratching, and this is for you for later. So moving on, our actions will shape our lives. and will shape our consciousness. The theory of consciousness says that the more we do with our bodies, the more we create pathways in the brain. And the research has failed us in some ways, because when we learned psychology 20 years ago, they used to say that the brain will grow from 0 to 2 years. And then they expanded on that. They said from 0 to 8 years. But today we continue to grow and build relationships and pathways in the brain for as long as we live. Of course, the speed will change. Of course, our mindsets will affect it. Our stress will have an influence, what we eat, how we exercise, all the other variables will affect our neurological pathways, but that doesn't mean that I cannot grow my brain. So our actions are situated in natural and social environments, and these shape us, and the environments shape us, and our body intelligence is going to create brain intelligence. For many of us, we practice yoga, and we know how much after yoga sessions, we're good in thinking and creating. So we are shaping our consciousness by the things we do. And when we think about resilience, we need to place our attention with your intention. It is very important to start to do the cognitive exercises required so that we improve our attention profiles and we start to come down into our intention and what we want to achieve and to navigate the balance in our lives. Again, the theory of consciousness is unlimitedly explaining that our activities will shape our consciousness, because our activities will affect the way we think and the way we feel. And the way we feel will affect our consciousness, which in turn now will help us to create more and more activities, more and more decisions. And it is a continuous process. So the more we grow, the more consciously we become aware of our growth. Coming down to the last area of growth, which is doing and resilience, creating our own environments to thrive, choosing what we do, activating our happy thoughts and emotions in doing, and vice versa, surrounding ourselves with people who are positive, people who are healthy emotionally and mentally, making enriching choices, making choices of our friendships, our lovers, who we want to hang out with, who we don't want to hang out with. Where is our sense of belonging? Do I want to go to the gym? Yes, because I belong. Do I want to skip this party because I don't belong and I'm not going to be a people pleaser anymore? I want to be where my mind grows. I want to be where my mind is nurtured. And we do things, we do them over and over, and it shapes the mind. How can we make new choices today? You're all here in UNDP, discovering and diversity, talking about racism, talking about sexism, talking about all the human causes that are affecting the conflict in the world today. How can we start to embrace the diversity, the difference? How can we start to take in a space of holding for each other in order to grow? How can we start to control and regulate the fragments that arise in the mind because of all the old trauma? And how can we really care and not cuddle ourselves? And by care versus cuddling, meaning caring, meaning like taking care of yourself, nurturing yourself in a state of consciousness, while cuddling might mean more of like, I'm helpless, I'm just staying laid back, and I'm passive in my belonging. So we consider our voluntary activities over and over and over. Finding our flows, and this is a very interesting concept, that there must be something we love to do. Each of us has something you love to do: dancing, singing, cooking, handwork, arts and crafts, meditating, walking by the beach, something that you have a passion to do, something you want to spend time with. And the more you spend time in this thing, the more you master it. And the more you master it, the brain learns that this is a space of creation. This is a space of power. So you take the energy and the power from this flow into more abilities that you can master. Nobody can master everything. And the feedback is cognitive, emotional, and physical. And the lasting benefits are ongoing self-developments when you find your flows, ongoing creativity, and ongoing pleasure during the flow and after the flow times. So if any of you has a flow, please type it in the chat. Something you do endlessly, something you never quit doing, you can never get bored of doing. You always find the time to do. You can always convince people that there's a time to do this. And you leave everything to jump into this flow. Reading, sport. Thank you. Horses, rollerblades, yoga. Thank you, Karen. Yes, we need to look for the flows because they are our healing spaces. It becomes like this space that you stay in and you forget the world. You forget everything happening outside. You are mindful in the moment and you are connecting the consciousness to the activities and reshaping your mind. So our take-home messages is, again, exploring our life wheels, how we want our lives to look like, and where is our sense of control? What can we do? Which area do I need coaching on? Which area do I want to discuss a friend with? Where do I need to do some work? Taking home messages is my power, is my V, it's my voluntary component. It is where I create my legacy and my agency. It leads me to mastery and the appropriate thinking of this world. And what will I do with the V? Every day I need to ask myself, what will I do with the V? Learn about the mind and become the master of your own life. Because you are the pieces that are interesting. Thank you. So we're gonna stay here for questions and comments and suggestions and feedback, please.
Thank you so much, Rola, for this interactive session. On Jad, it's so beneficial, and I can see that everyone was engaged. So I hope that you all benefited. Let us open the floor for questions and answer. Yalla. You can like drop your questions in the chat box, or you can just unmute yourself. Muhammad, I see you raising your hand. هيدي من قبل أو هلا؟
من قبل.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, okay, the first question is, what is the most important takeaway for us to start training our brain towards conscious thoughts? Mindfulness. You need to start to tap into mindfulness. Because mindfulness is part of everyday life. Mindfulness is a science that can take you step by step with small and humble steps into how can we really start to gain control over our attention, our intention, building awareness, befriending awareness, because we use the word here, waking up in crisis. And in science, waking up is ugly. Waking up is messy. How many times have we woken up to a relationship that was toxic and it was very ugly to experience the wake up? How many times today in Lebanon we woke up to a corrupted system, and this is an ugly wake up. This is a messy wake up. So every time we wake up in our lives, we face a lot of mess, a lot of ugliness. And after that comes the new learning. After accepting, coming out from denial into acceptance and starting to learn about our wake-ups, we start to tap into those spaces of growth and learning. And mindfulness is one of the best tools that you can start with. Of course, there are others, right? But I'm suggesting something in crisis. When we did the mindful circles, for example, there are mindfulness programs that take up to 2 hours of practice in a session and 1 hour of practice every day. And in the crisis situation, and Nadine remembers, for example, we were part of many circles, me and her. We tried to trim them down to 40 minutes of exchange because we knew people were so overwhelmed with the crisis, so overwhelmed with the time management. So many things are happening. So when we tap into mindfulness, we see that everyone will have a small space of mindfulness depending on how his or her life is running. So it is something that can allow you to craft on your own measure, rather than maybe today suggesting to you to go for therapy, because there might be different resources for therapy and you might not own these resources. Of course, you all know that therapy is beneficial. You all know that coaching is beneficial. We learn together every day. We join courses in universities, everything. But mindfulness can start to help you build awareness. Yeah, sorry. So the second question, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the kind presence. Is there no positive wake up? Wow, that's a beautiful question. We were never asked this question. Sorry, I think we need to take care of Bruno for a second. Okay, so positive wake ups. I think we become aware of our positive lives, right? Maybe you're hinting at gratitude. Can gratitude mean something here that we might be living blessed lives, privileged lives, and suddenly we realize how much surrounded with blessings we are, and we start to practice gratitude? Does that make sense, Claude? We start to realize the blessings in our lives, because that might mean positive wake up. Of course, as a therapist and coach, I'll tell you, all wake-ups are beneficial. Nobody wants to be unconscious for his life or her life, but wake-ups have curves. And in the first stage of wake-up, you go in denial, and denial is also painful because you might be making different choices during the denial stage that might not be the choices you want to make if you had been accepting and starting to adapt in the crisis, because there are different graphs that we unfold on as we start to go onto these curves and journeys. So wake-ups are always positive in that sense. But in the beginning, wake-ups are painful, they can be messy, and it's a time for you to be curious to see what kind of wake-ups you have endured in your lives. As youth in Lebanon today, almost everything we do on a daily basis is future-oriented because we're trying to gain some control over the instability we're facing. Yes, it's true, Mia. And does that disturb you that we are trying to think about the future? Can you tell me more about why you said that? There's something very interesting in your statement. I just want to make sure that this is what you mean. Are you over worried about the future? Mia, are you still here?
Mia, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, ahla wa sahla. I'm gonna also close this because it makes more sense to see each other. Yes, please go ahead, Mia.
Yeah, I mentioned the future because we're talking about mindfulness and being attention, which is something I practice in my life, but it's hard when you, let's say you're done with your breathing exercise and you get stepped back into the daily tasks of being a Lebanese person.
Yes.
You know, anxiety peaks again, future anxiety. So في كل uncertainty. So how do you balance that? How do you maintain the effects of your meditation, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yes. And this is what I felt in your question. This is what I wanted to make sure about. You know, when we talk about the future, we need to talk about the future, right? We need to set 5 years goals for our lives. We need to know where we want to be tomorrow and after tomorrow and then the next 1 year. And this is utmost important because we need to have a sense of control over our lives. And today we have lost our sense of control in some ways in the crisis. So other systems are predicting our schedules. Other systems are telling us where to go the next morning or where is the vaccine or what is allowed and not allowed. So we did lose that sense of control. The important thing is that, are we planning for the future from the present? Or are we hiding and escaping the present to jump into the future?
Wow.
Because this is something that happens to us when we are in trauma. When we are in trauma, we don't want to be present. And this is why we find ourselves imagining, dreaming, re-enumerating, overthinking, over-worrying. But the moment I'm living here right now is not the moment I'm living. I grab a cup of coffee, for example, and I drink that full cup of coffee. And after I finish the coffee, I realize that, oops, when did I finish the coffee? And that means during the interval of drinking the coffee, I was not there in that present moment of my life. I was overthinking, over-planning. So this is what's happening to us today, that we are trying to prevent being in the present because the present is too painful. And this would be a very interesting topic for you later if you want to learn about, which is procrastination, which is trying to escape the present goals, the present tasks, what's on the table. And between the lines, social media is feeding that too. So beware of social media trying to help us skip the present and jumping into the future. But really, we're not creating a future by doing that, because I need to create the future by the resources I have today. I need to know my strengths, my weaknesses. I need to be present in that meeting, in that seminar. I need to be able to ask the questions I need to ask to achieve that level of learning. But if the movie plays from A to Z and I skip that learning, then I lost that time and I lost that effort and I lost that learning. So being in the present is something that mindfulness starts to help us establish and identify the difference between the past, the present, and the future. And me making choices, if I want to be in the present moment, or if I really want to take 10 minutes on my couch and contemplate about an event that happened in my life and really try to understand why it happened and what got me into that state. and maybe visit something in my past sometimes with an intention to visit it. With my coach, with my therapist, I write a journal about it, I keep a diary about it. So mindfulness does not delete from us the past and the future. Mindfulness helps us to understand the differences and how we can be mindful of the three and how we can decide intentionally to be wherever we want to be. Does that make sense, Mia?
Makes so much sense, the point you made about escaping the present of painful Lebanon now and skipping
Yes.
to the future, but it's
Yes.
not beneficial for either phases. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes,
so
and we
much.
go to social media for that, by the way.
Mhm.
Because we can't process the pain, then we find ourselves procrastinating on social media. And this is another huge subject that can be explored. Do we have any other questions?
I think we have one last question
Yes.
concerning.
What is your opinion in the
yeah.
brain chemicals of happiness, serotonin, dopamine? Thank you for the question. Well, this is a medical, this is going to be a medical opinion, not my own opinion, whereby if medicine have decided that some people will need some help in boosting their brain chemicals because of the assessments they do, the diagnosis they do, then there is no harm at all. And all medicine and all therapy will agree to me that these medicines are very useful. Even Jonathan Haidt spoke about them in the beginning of his book. He said, do whatever you need to do in order to start waking up in your life, in order to start gaining control of your life. So if your depression is not allowing you to be at the gym, but you love sports, and your depression is making you overeat, but you were in your life a healthy eater, then get that Prozac. And he names it Prozac. He says, get that Prozac, get on the track, start to work on your mindfulness, start to work on your sense of awareness and your new brain tools. And then there will be a time, if you need, you will let go of that medicine. So nobody would say that there is any medical opinion which is bad about it, but there is so much to do before we go to medicine. And I have to say, because this is what I believe, there is so much to do with the brain, with the environment, with the activities we do every day, with our voluntary choices that can help us try to avoid medicine, or maybe in a better way said, not to rush into medicine while we are in a state of a collective trauma, for example. Because after the Beirut blast, for example, nobody would say for the next few weeks, we did not witness panic attacks in our body. We were overly scared. We were, yes, I totally understand. You're not taking medicines, but just to give an idea about how these things are happening, because you know, Jad, in the situation today, especially in Lebanon, but we are aware. Today, I was watching a different seminar, and the guy was talking about the veteran U.S. military who walked out of Afghanistan, and they were committing suicide, and people, when they give suicide alerts, then they need to go on medications, firstly and foremostly. So medication has a room, but there is so much room in the science of the brain. There's so much rule in our hand, and we can do a lot before we really see or feel that, well, I need to go for medicine. And again, not to forget that if you dance, if you sing, if you do many things, your dopamine will rise. So there are also behaviors that you can adopt in your new profile that can also have an effect on your chemicals. And you can try that before we go into the direct induced chemicals as drugs. Does that make sense?
I think it does. لأنه عم بقول لك that's what I'm talking
I'm not
about.
talking, not taking. Yes, yes. No, I read it as I'm not taking. I read it, I'm not taking medicines. And this is why I answered. We have people around us. All of us might be having people around us who might be depressed or having anxiety attacks, and they might be on medications. And this is part of what we need to do in order for us to gain some sense of control over our lives and our safety. And after that, there's so much to explore.
Rola, thank you
Yes.
so much for this
Thank you
amazing
all.
talk. We are really very happy to have you. وعن جد we are looking forward to host you again. I believe هيك كانت السيشن very interactive. We saw many people interacting and responding to your questions. Rola, can we, like, if someone would like to contact you, where can we find your contact details?
I did put them on the end of the slide. Let me put them again quickly.
Please, again.
Yes.
So if you have guys
this
any
is my email,
or
and
anything.
this is my the website of IB, and this is the phone number, my business phone number that you can call me on. And you can book a free 15-minute consultation on IB if there's a question on your mind or something you want to talk about or find out if IB can help you with something. And I would love if finally the ones that are present here just to type in the question in the chat, what would be an interesting topic for you later on? In general, not necessarily from me, but in general, is there something that you noted today that you would like to learn more about?
Exactly. Rola, let me just remind everyone that the purpose of the session was to explore more about the well-being, know more about mindfulness. كتير عم نسمع أخبار إنه نحنا ما بقى عارفين كيف بدنا نتصرف بالوضع اللي نحن فيه، ما بقى عارفين كيف نفكر، ما بقى عم نحس إنه إلنا محل نفكر وإنما إلنا محل نتصرف بكل شيء عم نعيشه. So I think at some point we have to figure out new things. We have to learn new things. يعني on personal levels لما حسيت إنه أنا خلص سكرت الدنيا بوجهي وما بعرف كيف بدي أكون عم أعرف قصص جديدة أو شارك بقصص جديدة، التجأت إنه بلش أقرأ كتب. لما كنت تقريبا 3 سنين كنت موقفة قراية الكتاب، هلا أنا رجعت أقرأ كتب ورجعت أعرف إنه أنا هيدي الساعة اللي بقعدها على البرندة on my balcony is really very هيك nice. يعني بحب. So I really encourage everyone to go and see where's the happiness. يعني وين هن بيحبوا يشوفوا حالهم. Exactly. وين هن بحسوا إنه at some point فيهم يحسوا their best، يكونوا at their ultimate best. So thank you so much again and again, Rola, for your.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for the kind presence. And just a final note on what Nadine was saying, that change and transformation does not happen in clinical context. We might go for therapy or coaching for few sessions, for few months, but once we get on the intention that I want to learn more about my mind, I want to start to explore myself, I want to start to look for peace and tranquility and a sense of control, a sense of regulation, then every opportunity you encounter is a learning opportunity. After this session, you might hear about mindfulness and you might read half an hour about mindfulness. The next day you find yourself coming to a different session in, for example, resilience. So this is when we say that transformation and change take time, but once you get on the track, then every new experience will build on the change. Talking to a friend about it, hearing a podcast about it, all these are coaching and therapy. So do not limit yourself to think that I need to go and sit on one-on-one with a therapist so that I can start to change and explore my potentials and transform. No, you might need at certain point a certain level of therapy, but this is not necessarily, and you can do a lot on your own, surrounding yourself with great relationships with people who unconditionally love you, give you secure grounds for change and attachment, and off you go. Thank you so much, and I wish you a blessed evening.
Thank you, Rola. Bye everyone. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Thank you. يعطيكم العافية. شكرا. Bye bye.
Bye bye.